The vast emptiness of space surrounded the Terran vanguard as it patrolled the outer edges of human-controlled territory. Captain James Walker stood on the bridge, his weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of the ship's monitors. At 45, Walker had spent more than half his life serving in Earth's defense fleet, yet the wonders of space never ceased to amaze him. "Captain, we're picking up something strange," said Officer Tom Reed, his fingers dancing across the communications console. "It's faint, but it doesn't match any known Alliance patterns." Walker moved closer, resting his hand on the back of Reed's chair. "Can you clean it up?" Reed adjusted several settings, and suddenly a crackling voice filled the bridge. The language was unfamiliar, a series of musical tones interrupted by desperate clicks and whines. The universal translator struggled for several seconds before producing broken English. "Help. Attack. Fleet destroyed. Survivors, please respond." The bridge fell silent. In the 12 years since humanity had joined the Galactic Alliance, they had been treated with a mixture of fear and respect. Earth's high gravity, extreme weather, and dangerous wildlife had produced humans who were stronger, faster, and more durable than most alien species. The Alliance had classified them as Deathworlders, beings from planets so hostile that most aliens couldn't survive there for more than a few hours. "Can you trace the signal?" Walker asked. Reed nodded. "It's coming from the Orion sector, about 3 light-years beyond Alliance space." Walker frowned. Alliance protocols were clear. Member species were forbidden from engaging in military actions outside their territories without explicit permission. But something about the desperate plea touched him. "Send a message to Admiral Reeves. Include the full transmission." 3 hours later, Walker's personal screen lit up with the stern face of Admiral Lisa Reeves. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her eyes reflected decades of difficult decisions. "You're sure this isn't a trap, Captain?" she asked. "No, ma'am. But whoever sent it is in real trouble." Reeves sighed. "The Alliance Council has already rejected our request to investigate. They say it's outside their jurisdiction and likely an internal matter between non-Alliance species. With all due respect, Admiral, since when do we let bureaucrats decide who lives and dies?" A small smile touched Reeves' lips. "That's exactly what I told them. The Council doesn't control Earth's fleet. They merely advise us." Her expression hardened. "I'm authorizing the humanitarian mission. Take the Vanguard and 2 support vessels, the Sentinel and the Guardian. Your mission is to investigate and render aid if possible." "What about the Alliance?" "I'll handle the politicians. You just find out who's calling for help." 24 hours later, 3 of Earth's most advanced warships gathered at the edge of human space. Despite being classified as medium-class vessels by Alliance standards, they carried weapons powerful enough to rival anything in the galactic neighborhood. Humans might be newcomers to interstellar travel, but centuries of conflict on Earth had made them experts in warfare. On the bridge of the Vanguard, Walker addressed his crew. "We don't know what we're heading into. The distress call came from a species unknown to us, under attack from another unknown force. Our mission is to assist survivors and gather information. The Alliance hasn't sanctioned this mission, which means we're on our own." He looked at the determined faces around him. "But we are humans. We don't leave people to die when we can help. Prepare for jump." The 3 ships vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind the safety of human territory and heading toward an uncertain encounter that would forever change humanity's place in the galaxy. As the stars streaked past the viewports, Walker couldn't shake the feeling that the desperate voice in that transmission would lead them to something bigger than anyone could imagine. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace into chaos. Before them, a massive silver ship shaped like a crescent moon drifted helplessly, its hull punctured in multiple places. Around it, 5 smaller vessels with jagged predatory lines fired continuous energy bursts at the damaged craft. "Battle stations," Walker ordered, his voice calm despite the scene before them. "Target the attacking ships but hold fire until my command." Officer Reed's eyes widened as sensor data flooded his screen. Captain, I'm reading life signs on the damaged vessel. Hundreds of them. But they're different. Nothing like any Alliance species we've encountered. Lieutenant Maria Diaz, at Weapons Control, spoke without taking her eyes off her station. The attackers have noticed us. They're breaking formation. Open communications, Walker commanded. When the channel was ready, he spoke clearly. This is Captain James Walker of the Earth Defense Fleet vessel Terran Vanguard. Cease your attack on the damaged ship immediately. The response came in the form of 3 enemy vessels turning toward the human fleet, weapons charging. Walker's expression hardened. So that's how it's going to be. Target engines and weapon systems only. Fire when ready. What followed shocked even the veteran crew members. The human ships, built to withstand Earth's military challenges, unleashed a barrage that tore through the attackers' shields as if they were paper. 2 enemy vessels lost propulsion immediately, while the third spun wildly as its stabilizers failed. The remaining 2 ships are retreating, Captain, Diaz reported, a hint of surprise in her voice at how quickly the battle had turned. Let them go, Walker said. They'll carry the message. Now, let's help those survivors. The Vanguard moved alongside the damaged ship, and scans revealed an atmosphere vastly different from Earth's. Lower oxygen, almost no nitrogen, and traces of gases humans couldn't safely breathe. We'll need to use the sealed shuttles and environment suits, Walker told the rescue team. Dr. Wilson, prepare sickbay for potentially very alien physiology. Walker led the first shuttle himself. As they docked with the damaged vessel, the rescue team was met with an astonishing sight. The corridors were lit with a soft purple light, and moving through them were beams unlike anything humans had encountered before. They stood about 5 feet tall with slender, almost fragile-looking bodies that seemed to be composed of translucent crystal. Light passed through their forms, creating rainbow patterns on the walls. Their faces had no recognizable features except for 3 glowing orbs arranged in a triangle where eyes and mouth would be on a human. One of the beams approached Walker, moving with graceful floating steps that barely touched the floor. It raised a crystalline hand in what seemed like a greeting. Universal Translator active, announced Reed, who had joined the rescue team. It's attempting to analyze their language. After several tense moments, the translator converted the musical tones emanating from the being into English. You came, responding to our call, when no others would. The voice sounded like wind chimes through the translator. I am Ambassador Trell of the Lumari Collective. We are in your debt, Earth beings. Walker removed his helmet in a gesture of trust, having confirmed the air in this section was safe to breathe. We're here to help, Ambassador. What happened here? Trell's body dimmed slightly, which Walker would later learn indicated distress. The Void Dominion attacked our colony ship without warning. They hunt us for the energy our bodies naturally produce. We sent distress signals to our Alliance contacts, but none responded. Their laws prevented intervention. The Galactic Alliance refused to help you. Walker asked, anger rising in his chest. They called it an internal matter outside their jurisdiction. Trell explained. But you came. You, the ones they called Deathworlders, and warned others to fear. Walker extended his hand, then realized the gesture might be meaningless to the Lumari. Instead, he placed his fist over his heart. Earth doesn't abandon those in need. Ambassador, let's get your people to safety. As the human rescue teams worked to evacuate the Lumari survivors, a new understanding began to form between the crystal beings and their unlikely saviors from a harsh, distant world. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Alliance Outpost 7 buzzed with nervous energy. Council Representative Marcus Thompson stood tall among the alien diplomats, his broad shoulders and dense muscle mass marking him instantly as a human, a Deathworlder. At his side, the crystalline form of Ambassador Trell seemed fragile by comparison, light dancing through the Lumari's transparent body. You violated 16 separate Alliance protocols, shouted Delegate Vorex, a tall, thin being with pale blue skin. His elongated fingers jabbed the air accusingly. Unauthorized military action outside human space, engagement with non-alliance species, interference in a sovereign conflict. Thompson's voice remained level, though the muscles in his jaw tightened. We responded to a distress call, one that your ships ignored. The Alliance chamber fell silent. 200 representatives from across the galaxy shifted uncomfortably in their various seats, floating platforms, and suspension fields. The Lumari ship was being attacked. Thompson continued, his voice echoing in the quiet chamber. Captain Walker's fleet saved 437 lives. If that violates your protocols, then perhaps your protocols need to change. High Chancellor Zeal, a gaseous entity contained within an ornate floating sphere, drifted forward. Representative Thompson, humanity joined the Alliance knowing our rules. Non-intervention in conflicts outside our borders prevents galaxy-wide war. Your species' aggressive tendencies cannot be allowed to drag us all into conflict. Trell floated forward, the light within him pulsing with emotion. My people were not part of a conflict. We were being hunted to extinction. The Void Dominion harvests our bodies for the energy they contain. The translator conveyed his musical speech into words that made several delegates recoil. From the back of the chamber, a hooded figure stepped forward. The human speaks truth. The hood fell back to reveal Kren, a rarely seen member of the Alliance Intelligence Service. His 4 eyes blinked independently as he inserted a data crystal into the central display. The Void Dominion has systematically eliminated 17 species in the past 40 Earth years, Kren said. Each time, distress calls were sent to Alliance vessels. Each time, we cited Protocol 27B and did nothing. Horrific images appeared on the display. Planets in ruin, species unlike any humans had seen before being loaded onto harvester ships. Many diplomats turned away. We have known this was happening, Kren continued. Alliance leadership deemed it regrettable but unavoidable to maintain galactic stability. Thompson slammed his fist on the podium, the impact making several nearby delegates jump. This isn't stability, it's cowardice. High Chancellor Zeal's containment sphere darkened in the equivalent of a flush of shame. You don't understand the complexities. I understand perfectly, Thompson interrupted. You're afraid. The Alliance was founded by species from gentle worlds. You created rules to prevent war because you fear it above all else, even above genocide. He stepped forward, his human frame towering over most delegates. Earth is different. Our world tried to kill us every day of our evolution. We've survived ice ages, predators, disease, and our own worst impulses. We don't fear conflict. We face it. Thompson turned to address the entire assembly. I'm not asking for permission anymore. Earth formally extends protection to the Lumari people, with or without Alliance approval. The chamber erupted in shouting. Some delegates demanded sanctions against Earth, while others quietly indicated support. Thompson didn't wait for their decision. He activated his communicator, broadcasting on an open channel that would reach every ship and outpost in Alliance space. This is Representative Marcus Thompson of Earth. I am sharing evidence of the Void Dominion's atrocities that the Alliance has hidden for decades. Judge for yourselves if standing aside was the right choice. As the footage spread across galactic networks, Thompson and Trell left the chamber together. Will your government truly defy the Alliance? Trell asked, his crystalline form shimmering with concern. Thompson nodded. The vote already happened while we were in that room. Unanimous decision. Earth stands with the Lumari. As they boarded the shuttle back to the Terran Vanguard, messages began flooding in from Earth's colonies and military outposts. Humanity was mobilizing for what might become their first interstellar war, not for territory or resources, but to protect a species most humans had never even seen before. Admiral Lisa Reeves stood aboard the bridge of the Earth's flagship, the EDF Horizon, watching as ships assembled at the edge of human space. Through the massive viewport, vessels of various sizes moved into formation, cruisers, destroyers, and battleships. each bearing the distinctive blue and silver colors of Earth's defense fleet. 87 ships, Admiral, reported Commander Ben Foster, sliding a tablet across the holographic display table. Every combat-ready vessel we could pull from our colonies, not the largest fleet in the galaxy, but certainly the most determined. Reeves nodded, her silver hair catching the light of distant stars. At 62, she had hoped to finish her career in peacetime. Now she found herself preparing for humanity's first interstellar conflict. The Lumari ships, she asked. 17 survivors, mostly civilian vessels. Their technology is impressive, but they built for science and exploration, not war. On the lower deck of the Horizon, Captain Walker and Ambassador Trell worked side by side in a specially modified laboratory. The air was thinner here, adjusted to accommodate Trell's physiology, while remaining breathable for humans. "Your shield technology is unlike anything we've developed," Walker said, examining the shimmering energy barrier generated by a small Lumari device. But it wasn't enough against the Dominion weapons. Trell's crystalline body dimmed slightly. "We are not warriors, Captain. For millennia, we explored and built and learned. The concept of weapons designed specifically to kill was foreign to us." Walker nodded, understanding the gulf between their species. On Earth, even our earliest tools could be used as weapons. It's part of who we are. He gestured to a nearby screen showing the simulation of combined human-Lumari technology. "But together, we might have something the Dominion hasn't seen before." Their work was interrupted by an urgent message. "Captain Walker to the bridge immediately." When Walker arrived, Admiral Reeves stood before a holographic display showing 3 sleek, black ships approaching the fleet's position. "Void Dominion?" Walker asked. "Envoys," Reeves replied. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies. They want to talk." The main screen flickered to life, revealing a being that sent chills down Walker's spine. It appeared almost human-shaped but wrong. Skin like oil on water, eyes too wide and completely black, a mouth that stretched too far across its face. "Humans of Earth," the being said, its voice unnaturally smooth. "I am Overseer Drax of the Void Dominion. You have interfered in matters beyond your understanding." Admiral Reeves stepped forward. "You were hunting and killing innocent beings. We understand that perfectly well." Drax's mouth twisted into what might have been a smile. "The Lumari are not innocent. They are resources. Their bodies contain energy our empire requires. Return them to us, and we will consider your interference a regrettable misunderstanding." "And if we refuse?" Reeves asked, though she already knew the answer. "Then Earth will learn why species across 3 galaxies fear the Dominion." After the transmission ended, silence filled the bridge. Finally, Walker spoke. "They're trying to intimidate us. It's their primary tactic. The Alliance species are terrified of them." "We're not the Alliance," Reeves stated flatly. Down in the science lab, Dr. Emily Wright made a fascinating discovery. She called Walker and Trell immediately. "I've been running tests on human and Lumari neural patterns," she explained, pointing to comparative brain scans. "The Void Dominion ships emit a specific frequency that induces terror in most species. That's how they conquered so many worlds, by paralyzing their enemies with fear." "And humans?" asked Walker. Wright smiled. "Our brains don't process it the same way. We evolved on a world where fear was a daily companion. We learned to function despite it, even use it to our advantage. The Dominion's greatest weapon may be useless against us." The meeting was cut short by alarms blaring throughout the ship. A Void Dominion scout vessel had been detected attempting to slip past the fleet's outer defenses. "They're mapping our forces," Walker realized, preparing for an attack. The scout ship was quickly captured by Earth's fastest interceptors. Analysis of its navigation data revealed the terrible truth. The Dominion wasn't planning to attack Earth directly. They were targeting the newly established human colonies, thinking them more vulnerable. "They don't understand us at all," Admiral Reeves said as she issued new orders to the fleet. They think we'll abandon our colonies to protect our homeworld. As ships began jumping to defensive positions around human settlements, Walker realized the Void Dominion had made a critical error. They had spent centuries preying on peaceful species that feared conflict. They had never faced Deathworlders before. New Terra glowed blue-green against the blackness of space, its twin moons orbiting lazily above sprawling colony settlements. The planet had been humanity's first successful off-world colony, established just 5 years after Earth joined the Galactic Alliance. Though beautiful, its environment was harsh. Powerful storms, aggressive local wildlife, and temperature swings that could kill the unprepared. Perfect for humans. Captain Walker stood on the bridge of the Terran Vanguard, now upgraded with Lumari technology. The crystalline modifications to the ship's systems gave the control panels an otherworldly glow. "They're coming," said Officer Reed, his eyes fixed on the long-range sensors. 37 Void Dominion ships dropping out of hyperspace in 2 minutes. Walker nodded. "Just as we predicted. Position our ships behind a larger moon. Let them think they've caught us unprepared." His small squadron of 7 vessels, 4 human and 3 Lumari, moved silently into position. The plan was simple but risky. Let the Dominion believe they were attacking a defenseless colony, then spring the trap. The black ships of the Void Dominion arrived like a swarm of wasps, their jagged shapes blotting out the stars as they moved toward the colony. From the surface, thousands of colonists watched the sky darken. Unlike citizens of gentler worlds, they didn't panic. Instead, they moved calmly to defensive positions, many grabbing weapons they had hoped never to use off Earth. "They're in position," Walker said quietly. Now, the human Lumari fleet burst from behind the moon, engines flaring as they charged directly into the surprised Dominion formation. The Vanguard led the attack, its newly modified weapons firing beams of energy that shifted from blue to purple as they cut through enemy shields. "They're broadcasting the fear signal," Lieutenant Diaz reported, her hand steady on the weapons controls despite the flashing warning on her console. Walker smiled grimly. "How do you feel, Lieutenant?" "Angry, sir, and ready." "That's humanity for you." The Dominion ships broke formation, clearly confused by the ineffectiveness of their primary psychological weapon. 3 of their vessels concentrated fire on the Vanguard, their energy weapons sizzling against the hybrid shields. "Shields holding at 82%, Reed announced. "The Lumari modifications are working." Walker opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, execute attack pattern Delta. Marine teams, prepare for boarding action." The human vessels performed maneuvers that defied conventional space combat tactics, flying directly at enemy ships before veering away at the last second, deliberately taking glancing hits to get into better firing positions, sacrificing shields for killing shots. It was the kind of high-risk, high-reward strategy that only a species evolved to embrace danger could execute. On the colony surface, Governor Alex Bennett activated the planetary defense grid, a system the Alliance had advised against as unnecessarily aggressive for a peaceful colony. The surface-to-space cannons roared to life, catching several Dominion ships in devastating crossfire. "The colonists are fighting back," Reed said with pride in his voice. "Of course they are," Walker replied. "They're humans who chose to live on one of the most challenging planets we found." Did the Dominion really think they'd surrender? As the battle raged, Walker gave the order he'd been waiting for. "Marine Team Alpha, you are clear to board the Dominion command vessel." 3 shuttles launched from the Vanguard's bay, each carrying 20 human Marines in heavy combat armor. They slammed into the hull of the largest enemy ship, cutting their way inside with plasma torches. What followed was the first direct ground combat between humans and the Void Dominion. The Marines moved through the alien corridors with practiced precision, their heavier earthborne muscles and reinforced bones giving them a significant advantage in close quarters. The Dominion soldiers, used to enemies paralyzed by fear, found themselves facing an entirely different kind of opponent. "Command deck secured," came the report from Marine Captain Diane Ortiz. Their leadership is in retreat. We've downloaded their tactical database. Above New Terra, the remaining Dominion ships began to withdraw, jumping into hyperspace with their damaged vessels in tow. The battle had lasted less than 2 hours. As the colony celebrated below, Walker received a transmission from Admiral Reeves. "Well done, Captain. But this was just the first engagement. Reports are coming in from across Alliance space. Our victory has made quite an impression." The screen showed alien news broadcasts from dozens of worlds. The dangerous Deathworlders had done what the Alliance would not. They had fought back against the Void Dominion, and they had won. The Alliance Council chamber had never seen such disorder. Delegates shouted over one another, some pounding their appendages on desks, while others floated in agitation. At the center of the storm stood Admiral Lisa Reeves, her weathered face impassive as she waited for the chaos to subside. High Chancellor Zeal's containment sphere pulsed with angry red gas. "You have brought us to the brink of galactic war. The Void Dominion will not stop with human colonies. They will see the entire Alliance as enemies now." Admiral Reeves remained calm. "The Dominion was already your enemy. They were systematically exterminating species while you looked away." From the back of the chamber, a tall, plant-like being stepped forward. Ambassador Kroll of the Verdant Collective bowed his flowered head toward Reeves. "The humans speak truth. My people have voted to join Earth's defense coalition." His voice rustled like leaves in wind. "We will no longer hide behind Alliance non-intervention protocols." Chancellor Zeal's sphere darkened. "This is outrageous. No member species can form military alliances without Council approval." "Then perhaps we are no longer member species," came another voice. Ambassador Nix of the Aquarian Worlds rose from her water tank. "My government has also pledged ships to the human fleet." Admiral Reeves tried not to smile as more delegates stood to announce their support. The Alliance was fracturing exactly as she had predicted. After seeing humans successfully defeat the Dominion at New Terra, many species have begun to question the wisdom of pacifism in the face of extinction. In the corridors outside the chamber, Captain Walker and Ambassador Trell met with a growing network of allies. Representatives from 7 species had gathered, each bringing technical experts to study the human Lumari hybrid ships. "The Dominion will retaliate with everything they have," Walker explained, showing tactical projections on a holographic display. "Their power is built on fear. If they cannot make others fear them, their entire empire collapses." Trell's crystalline form glowed brighter than usual. "We have analyzed the data from the captured Dominion vessel. Their primary fleet is gathering here." The map shifted to show a massive collection of ships near the edge of known space. They plan to strike not at Earth, but at the Alliance capital world. "A bold move," said the reptilian General Thax of the Soran Defense Force. "They hope to decapitate the Alliance leadership and force the rest back into submission." Walker nodded, which is why Admiral Reeves has developed a counter-strategy. "We don't wait for their attack. We take the fight directly to them." He revealed the plan. A joint fleet would bypass the Dominion Armada and strike at their homeworld itself. It was the kind of high-risk operation that would horrify traditional Alliance tacticians, but made perfect sense to species now thinking like humans. Back in the Council chamber, the debate had turned ugly. Several delegates were demanding sanctions against Earth, while others threatened to withdraw from the Alliance entirely. "Enough." The voice cut through the noise like a knife. Marcus Thompson stepped into the center of the chamber, carrying a data crystal. "Before you vote on sanctions, you should see this." The display activated, showing secure communications between certain Alliance officials and Void Dominion representatives. Trade agreements, technology exchanges, even defensive pacts, all hidden from the Council. "These officials," Thompson said, his voice hard, "have been trading with the Dominion for decades. They sold out the Lumari and other species for profit and protection." The chamber erupted again, but this time the anger was directed inward. Species that had trusted the Alliance leadership for centuries now saw betrayal. As the political structure began to collapse, a frantic message reached the chamber. The Void Dominion fleet had changed course. They were heading directly for the Alliance capital with over 200 warships. High Chancellor Zeal's sphere turned pale. "We have no defenses that can stop such a force. Our security fleet has only 40 vessels." Admiral Reeves stepped forward. "Then perhaps it's time to reconsider Earth's offer of protection." The message went out across all channels. The Alliance capital was under imminent threat, and they were officially requesting human military assistance. As Captain Walker rushed to gather his hybrid fleet, Ambassador Trell floated beside him, lights pulsing with what Walker had learned was the Lumari equivalent of laughter. "What's amusing, Ambassador?" Walker asked as they boarded his command shuttle. "The Alliance feared the Deathworlders would bring war to the galaxy," Trell replied. "Now they beg those same Deathworlders to save them from the war that was already here." Walker smiled grimly as they prepared to jump into what would likely be the largest space battle in galactic history. The void above the Dominion homeworld blazed with the light of battle. 200 human ships, alongside vessels from 17 former Alliance species, engaged the Dominion's home defense fleet. Energy weapons crisscrossed the darkness, and the silent explosions of destroyed ships lit up space like deadly fireworks. Captain Walker stood on the bridge of the Terran Vanguard, now scared from multiple battles but still formidable. The ship shuddered as it absorbed another hit from a Dominion cruiser. "Shields at 41%, Captain," Officer Reed reported, his uniform stained with sweat. "But their defensive line is breaking." Walker nodded, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. The combined fleet had fought its way through the Dominion Armada using strategies that defied conventional space warfare. Human captains led charges that seemed suicidal, but succeeded through sheer audacity. Lumari ships provided shield support with their crystal technology. The Sorin vessels used their superior armor to absorb damage, while Alliance defectors contributed their speed and precision. "Admiral Reeves is signaling," Lieutenant Diaz announced. "The path to the surface is clear." Walker took a deep breath. This was the moment the entire campaign had built toward. Intelligence from captured Dominion ships had revealed a shocking truth. The Void Dominion was not ruled by the oil-skinned humanoids they had met, but by parasitic creatures that lived inside them, feeding on the fear they created. "Ground teams ready for deployment," Walker confirmed. "Beginning our descent." On the planet's night side, away from the main battle, 5 human transport ships broke through the atmosphere. Each carried Special Forces soldiers selected for one critical trait: psychological resilience. These men and women had faced the worst conditions on Earth and survived, their minds forged into weapons as formidable as any in their arsenal. Commander Diane Ortiz led the first team out of their transport onto the purple soil of the Dominion homeworld. The air was breathable but smelled of metal and something like rotting fruit. In the distance loomed a massive black structure, the central control hub for the entire Dominion. "Move out," Ortiz ordered. "Remember your training. Do not engage with any mental intrusions." As they approached the structure, strange whispers filled their minds. Promises, threats, images of home and safety, visions of terrible dangers lurking in shadows. The parasites were attempting to influence them, but the human minds, evolved on a world filled with both beauty and horror, could compartmentalize these intrusions. Ortiz smiled grimly. "Nice try," she muttered as her team placed breaching charges on the main doors. Inside the orbital command ship, Walker received real-time updates from the ground teams as they fought their way through the Dominion's inner sanctum. The resistance was fierce but disorganized. For the first time, the Dominion faced enemies immune to their primary weapon: fear itself. "Captain," Ambassador Trell's musical voice cut through the battle noise. "Our sensors detect unusual energy readings from the planet's core. The Dominion is activating some kind of last resort weapon." Walker made a quick decision. "All ships, concentrate fire on these coordinates." He highlighted a point on the tactical display where energy readings were strongest. "Ground teams, accelerate your timeline. We need that control center now." On the surface, Commander Ortiz's team reached the central chamber. What they found there would haunt even these hardened veterans. Thousands of transparent tubes containing writhing parasites, each connected to a host body. At the center, a massive parasite pulsed with dark energy, clearly the dominant entity. "This is the true face of the Void Dominion," Ortiz reported to Walker. "These parasites feed on fear. They've been harvesting it from species across the galaxy." The squad's technical expert worked quickly to override the facility's systems, while the rest of the team held off waves of defenders. Above, the combined fleet hammered the planetary defense grid, preventing the activation of the superweapon. "System overridden," came the report from the ground team. "We're broadcasting the shutdown codes to all Dominion ships." Across the battlefield, the black vessels of the Void Dominion suddenly powered down, their weapons going silent, engines failing. Without the central control hub, the parasites could no longer coordinate their vast empire. 1 week later, representatives from across the galaxy gathered on the neutral ground of Earth's lunar colony. The alliance had been reformed, with new leadership and new principles. Admiral Reeves and Captain Walker stood proudly as the treaty was signed, a document that recognized humanity's right to defend themselves and others, granting them special authority to intervene against genocidal threats. Ambassador Trull approached Walker after the ceremony, his crystalline form glowing with the brightest light Walker had ever seen from him. "Your people have changed everything," Trull said. "For millennia, the galaxy operated on the principle that peace required non-intervention. You showed us that true peace sometimes requires standing up to fight." Walker smiled. "That's what Earth taught us. Sometimes the most dangerous path is doing nothing." Together, they announced the formation of the Sentinel Protocol, a new doctrine ensuring that no peaceful species would ever again face extinction while others stood by. The galaxy's perception of Deathworlders had transformed. Humans were still feared for their strength and combat prowess, but now that fear was tempered with profound respect and gratitude. As Captain Walker looked out at the assembled representatives of dozens of worlds, he realized that humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors or subjects, but as protectors. The harsh world that had forged them had given them not just the strength to fight, but the compassion to know when fighting was necessary. Captain Marcus Reed stared at the pulsing light on his control panel. The small green dot blinked with perfect rhythm, like a heartbeat from the stars themselves. The bridge of the Earth Defense Force flagship, Resilience, fell silent as all eyes turned to the captain. "How long has it been transmitting?" Reed asked, his voice calm despite the tension in the air. Lieutenant Anna Torres looked up from her station. "We first detected it 3 hours ago, sir. The signal repeats every 90 seconds. It's definitely not natural." Reed nodded slowly. Humanity had ventured beyond their solar system only 15 years ago. In all that time, they had found plenty of planets, but no signs of intelligent life. Until now. "Play it again," he ordered. The bridge speakers crackled to life, filling the room with a series of tones and clicks that made the hair on Reed's neck stand up. The pattern was too regular, too precise to be anything but artificial. "Dr. Frost to the bridge," Reed called into the ship's communication system. Dr. Elara Frost arrived minutes later. Her eyes were bright with excitement despite her clearly having been woken from sleep. As the ship's leading xenolinguist, she had spent years preparing for this moment. "Captain," she said, not bothering with formalities, "is it true?" "A signal." Reed gestured to Torres, who played the transmission again. Frost listened with complete focus, her fingers tapping against her leg as if counting. "It's them," she whispered when it finished. "It's really them." "Who?" Reed asked. "Someone not human," Frost replied with a small smile. "The mathematical sequence embedded in this signal follows universal constants, prime numbers, the value of pi, basic atomic structures. This is a deliberate message meant to be understood by anyone with basic scientific knowledge." Reed turned to the main view screen showing the distant stars. Can you tell what they're saying? Frost shook her head. Not yet, but the repeating pattern suggests urgency. Captain, I believe this is a distress call. The news spread quickly through the ship and back to Earth. Within hours, the Council of Nations was in emergency session. Reed attended virtually from his ready room. We cannot rush into this, said Councillor Park. Humanity is still young in space. Our fleet is designed for exploration and defense, not rescue missions in unknown territory. But we can't ignore it either, countered Councillor Wilson. If these aliens are advanced enough for interstellar communication, they could be valuable allies, or dangerous enemies if we leave them to whoever is threatening them. Reed listened as the debate continued. His mind drifted back to his childhood on Earth, to the harsh storms and crushing gravity that had shaped human evolution. Earth was classified as a death world by their own scientists, a planet with extreme conditions that forced its inhabitants to become strong, resilient, and adaptable. Humans had survived ice ages, asteroid impacts, and their own self-destructive tendencies. Their bodies were built to endure punishment that would kill most creatures. Perhaps that was why Reed felt an obligation to respond to the signal. Humans knew what it meant to struggle against overwhelming odds. Captain Reed, the Council President's voice pulled him back to the present. You would lead this mission. What is your assessment? Reed straightened in his chair. Madam President, members of the Council, humanity has always defined itself by how we respond to those in need. We have the ships, we have the training, and now we have the opportunity to prove ourselves as a species worthy of the stars. I recommend we answer the call. The vote was closer than Reed would have liked, but in the end, the decision was made. The Resilience would lead a battle group to the coordinates of the distress signal. As the ships prepared to depart, Dr. Frost worked day and night to decode more of the message, occasionally sending updates to Reed's personal terminal. The language structure suggests a peaceful species, she wrote in her latest report. But whatever they're running from, they're terrified. Reed looked out the viewport as Earth grew smaller behind them. Whatever awaited them in the darkness between stars, humanity was about to show the galaxy what Deathworlders were made of. The jump to faster-than-light travel always made Captain Reed's stomach turn. As the Resilience and its 3 escort ships returned to normal space, he steadied himself against his command chair. Status report, he ordered, blinking away the dizziness. All systems normal, Captain. Torres replied. We've arrived at the signal coordinates. Reed looked at the main screen. Among the stars hung a large ship, its hull dark except for flickering emergency lights. Parts of it were torn open, exposing the inner decks to the vacuum of space. Life signs? Reed asked. Faint readings, sir, said Officer Dave Miller from the sensor station. The ship's life support is failing. I estimate less than 12 hours remaining. Reed didn't hesitate. Prepare boarding teams, full environment suits, and standard weapons. Dr. Frost, you're with me. The shuttle bay was busy with activity as teams prepared for first contact. Dr. Frost checked her translation device one last time. I've programmed all we know from the signal, she told Reed. But face-to-face communication will be challenging. Reed nodded. Just help us say, we come in peace, and we'll figure out the rest. Their shuttle approached the damaged alien vessel, which was 3 times larger than the Resilience. Up close, the damage looked worse. Something had sliced through the hull with terrifying precision. Weapons fire, muttered Security Chief Jack Rivera. Advanced energy weapons, nothing like ours. They found an intact airlock and docked. Reed led the team inside, where emergency lighting cast red shadows across alien writing. The corridors were wider and taller than human standards, making Reed feel small for the first time in his life. The atmosphere is breathable, Miller said, checking his scanner. But gravity is only 0.7 of Earth standard. Reed removed his helmet and immediately felt lighter. Stay alert but non-threatening, he ordered as they moved deeper into the ship. They found the aliens in what appeared to be a medical bay, Tall, slender beings with pale blue skin and 4 arms moved among beds of injured. When the humans entered, the aliens froze. One stepped forward. It stood nearly 7 feet tall but moved with a grace that seemed impossible for its size. Its large eyes widened at the sight of the humans. Dr. Frost activated her translation device and spoke a greeting. The alien tilted its head, listening. After a moment, it retrieved a similar device and responded. "I am Ambassador Thal of the Araxian Confederation." The translation came through in a flat electronic voice. You responded to our distress call." "Captain Marcus Reed of the Earth Defense Force." Reed replied. "We're here to help." Thal's body seemed to slump with relief. "Earth, we have no records of your species. We're relatively new to space travel," Reed explained. Thal approached Reed, studying him with increasing amazement. "Your body density, your muscle structure. What gravity world do you come from?" "Earth is 9.8 meters per second squared," Dr. Frost answered. The aliens in the room made sounds that the translator didn't catch. Thal's 4 hands made quick gestures. "You are Deathworlders," Thal said finally. "We thought such species were myths." Reed exchanged glances with his team. "I don't understand. Most spacefaring species evolve on gentle worlds," Thal explained. "Low gravity, stable climates, minimal radiation. Your physiology suggests your world is extreme by our standards." Before Reed could respond, alarms blared through the ship. An Araxian rushed into the medical bay, speaking rapidly to Thal. "A Vorn scout ship has been detected," Thal translated urgently. "They are returning to finish what they started." "The Vorn?" Reed asked. "The ones who attacked us. A collective of species that conquers others for resources and territory. They left us to die slowly, but now they return." Reed tapped his communicator. "Resilience, we have hostiles incoming. Prepare defensive positions but hold fire unless fired upon." "Captain," Thal said, "the Vorn do not negotiate. They will attack your vessels without warning." Reed smiled grimly. "Then they'll learn what happens when you attack Deathworlders." Minutes later, the Vorn ship appeared, sleek, predatory, and confident as it approached the human vessels. It fired without communication or warning. The Resilience's shields flared but held. The human ships responded with precision fire that crippled the Vorn vessel in seconds. From the view screen in the medical bay, Thal watched with amazement. "Impossible. The Vorn scout ships have never been defeated so quickly." Reed crossed his arms. "That was just one ship. Tell me about the rest of them." The grand meeting chamber of the Araxian ship hummed with nervous energy. Captain Reed sat with his officers at a large circular table, facing the Araxian High Council. 7 tall blue aliens watched the humans with a mixture of hope and fear. "We thank you for saving our diplomatic vessel," said High Counselor Vex, the eldest Araxian whose skin had faded to a pale gray. "But we must understand who we are dealing with." Reed nodded. "That's fair. We have questions too." Dr. Frost activated a holographic display showing Earth and its solar system. "This is our home. We've only traveled beyond our system for 15 years. The Araxians murmured among themselves. Vex leaned forward. "So young in space travel, yet so advanced in warfare?" he asked. "Not advanced," Reed corrected. "Just experienced. Our history is filled with conflict. We've learned from it." Vex touched a control panel, and a galactic map appeared above the table. Hundreds of stars lit up in different colors. "The galaxy as we know it," Vex explained. "Blue systems belong to peaceful confederations like ours. Red are controlled by the Vorn Collective. Yellow are neutral or unclaimed." Reed studied the map. Red dominated nearly a third of the displayed galaxy. "The Vorn began their expansion 50 years ago," Thal explained. "They target worlds with valuable resources or strategic positions. They are not physically imposing, but their technology is superior. Why haven't the peaceful worlds united against them?" asked Security Chief Rivera. The Araxians exchanged uncomfortable glances. "We are not built for war," Vex said finally. "Most spacefaring species evolve on gentle worlds with few predators or natural disasters. Our bodies are efficient for our home environments but fragile by your standards." Lieutenant James Walker, a muscular man, even by human measures, stood up. "May I demonstrate something?" When Vex nodded, Walker approached a metal container in the corner of the room. The Araxians used these for storing heavy equipment. Walker bent down, gripped the edges, and lifted the container over his head with a grunt of effort. The Araxians gasped. Thal rushed forward with a scanning device. "Impossible," he exclaimed. "That container weighs nearly 200 units. It takes 3 Araxians using lifting equipment to move it." Walker set the container down, not even breathing hard. "On Earth, we call this a good workout, not a miracle." Engineer Nora Blackwell, who had been examining Araxian technology, spoke up. "Their tech is impressive, Captain, but designed for efficiency, not durability. I could make significant improvements with Earth-based engineering principles." Reed considered this information. "It seems we each have something the other needs. You have advanced space technology and knowledge of the galaxy. We have military experience and physical capabilities you lack. Are you proposing an alliance?" Vex asked cautiously. "I'm proposing a partnership," Reed replied. "We protect your worlds. You help us advance our technology and navigation." The Araxians withdrew to discuss among themselves. Reed's team used the break to compare notes. "Their ship designs are elegant," Blackwell said excitedly. "But they've never considered reinforcing critical systems against battle damage. With a few modifications, we could double their combat effectiveness." Dr. Frost looked troubled. "Their language has dozens of words for cooperation and consensus, but barely any for conflict or strategy. They literally don't think in terms of warfare." When the Araxians returned, Vex's expression was solemn. "We accept your proposal, Captain Reed. The Araxian Confederation welcomes Earth as an ally. We will share our star charts and technology. In return, we ask for your protection against the Vorn." Reed stood and extended his hand in the human gesture of agreement. After a moment of confusion, Vex mimicked the action, his four-fingered hand engulfing Reed's. "To new friendships," Reed said. The moment was interrupted by a blaring alarm. Officer Miller checked his communicator, face going pale. "Captain, multiple ships just appeared on long-range sensors. Vorn signatures. At least 15 vessels, heavily armed." Vex looked panicked. "They're attacking the diplomatic meeting. This is unprecedented aggression." Reed was already moving toward the door. "Not unprecedented for us. Humans have a saying, if you want peace, prepare for war. Let's show the Vorn what they're really dealing with." As Reed's team rushed to their stations, the Araxians watched in amazement. For the first time in their long history, they were allied with Deathworlders. The galaxy was about to change forever. "Evasive maneuvers," Captain Reed shouted as he rushed onto the bridge of the Resilience. All ships formed defensive pattern delta. The human vessels moved with practiced precision, forming a protective barrier around the damaged Araxian diplomatic ship. The Vorn fleet approached in a wedge formation, their weapons already charging. "They're targeting our engines," Torres reported. "Standard tactic to disable before boarding." Reed smiled grimly. "They don't know we've studied their attack patterns. Weapons officer, target their lead ship's weapon systems only." The Resilience fired, its enhanced weapons slicing through the Vorn flagship's shields. The enemy vessel shuddered, its main weapons going dark. "Second wave, fire," Reed ordered. The human escort ships launched their attacks, each targeting a different Vorn vessel. The space around them lit up with energy beams and explosions. The Vorn, clearly surprised by the effectiveness of human weapons, broke formation. "They're retreating," Miller announced as the enemy ships pulled back to regroup. Ambassador Thal stared at the tactical display in disbelief. 15 Vorn ships, And you drove them back in minutes. We haven't won yet, Reed cautioned. They're regrouping, not leaving. On the engineering deck, Nora Blackwell worked frantically alongside Araxian technicians. They had been implementing her modifications to the Araxian ship's defense systems when the attack began. Your energy distribution is all wrong, she explained to the chief Araxian engineer. You're wasting power. If we reroute like this, she made adjustments to the control panel, and the ship's shields immediately strengthened by 30%. The Araxian engineer, Lind, watched in amazement. How did you know to do that? Blackwell shrugged. On Earth, we learn to make the most of limited resources. When you grow up on a death world, efficiency isn't just nice, it's survival. Meanwhile, Dr. Frost had made a breakthrough with the complete distress message. She rushed to the bridge, her tablet displaying a full translation. Captain, I know why the Vorn are so desperate to destroy this diplomatic mission, she said breathlessly. The Araxians weren't just sending a random distress call. They were reaching out to any possible allies because the Vorn have captured 3 of their core worlds. Reed's expression hardened. So this is about more than one damaged ship. It's about planetary occupation. Yes, Frost confirmed. And according to this data, the nearest captured world is only 2 jump points away. Reed turned to Thal. How many of your people are on that world? Nexus 7. Millions, Thal replied. It's a major agricultural center. The Vorn took it 3 months ago. The Vorn fleet began moving again, this time in a different formation. Reed studied their approach, then made his decision. All ships, prepare for aggressive counterattack, he ordered. We're not waiting for them this time. The human vessels surged forward, catching the Vorn by surprise. The battle was fierce but brief. When it ended, 5 Vorn ships had been disabled, 3 destroyed, and the rest had fallen into faster-than-light travel. In the aftermath, Reed called a meeting with his officers and the Araxian leaders. The Vorn now know that humans are a threat to their plans, he began. They'll return with a larger force. We need to act first. What do you propose? Vex asked. Reed displayed a tactical map of Nexus 7. We launch a liberation operation. Free your world and show the Vorn that their conquests aren't safe anymore. The Araxians looked uncertain. Thal spoke hesitantly. Our people have no experience with warfare. We don't know how to fight. Lieutenant Walker stepped forward. Then we'll teach you. Over the next week, human officers trained Araxian volunteers in basic combat tactics. The Araxians were quick learners, though their natural instinct was to avoid conflict rather than engage. Meanwhile, Blackwell and her team modified the Araxian ships with Earth-based improvements, creating hybrid vessels with both speed and power. The Resilience itself received upgrades from Araxian technology, enhancing its sensors and navigation systems. Dr. Frost worked with Araxian communication experts to prepare messages for the occupied world, telling them that help was coming. On the 8th day, Captain Reed stood on the bridge of the Resilience, looking out at the combined human Araxian fleet. All ships report ready, Captain, Torres announced. Reed nodded. Then it's time. Set course for Nexus 7. The liberation begins now. Nexus 7 hung in space like a blue-green jewel, clouds swirling across its surface, but the beauty was marred by the Vorn occupation fleet in orbit. 12 warships positioned as a defensive net around the planet. Captain Reed studied the tactical display on the Resilience's bridge. Their combined human Araxian fleet had emerged from faster-than-light travel just beyond the Vorn detection grid. Their orbital defense system is more extensive than we expected, Reed said. We need to disable it before we can land ground forces. Commander Diana Rivera, who would lead the ground assault, nodded. My teams are ready, Captain. Just get us to the surface. Reed turned to his communications officer. Send the signal. Across the fleet, ships activated the modifications Blackwell had installed. The Vorn detection grid registered only small asteroids where the fleet actually was, a trick using the Vorn's own sensor technology against them. We're approaching undetected, Torres reported. 60 seconds to optimal firing range. Reed waited until the last possible moment. All ships, weapons free. The human vessels opened fire simultaneously, targeting the Vorn fleet's communication arrays. 3 enemy ships lost power before they could even raise shields. The others scrambled to respond, but the surprise was complete. Ground teams, prepare for deployment, Reed ordered. Engineer Blackwell, begin Phase 2. On the engineering deck, Blackwell activated the Planetary Defense Override program she had developed with Araxian engineers. The code attacked the Vorn control systems, creating a brief window where the orbital weapons would be disabled. Defense grid is down, she reported. You have 7 minutes, Commander. Rivera's teams launched in dropships, streaking toward the surface. The small, fast vessels were hard to target, and most reached the ground safely. Rivera led the first team out onto the surface of Nexus 7. The gravity was lighter than Earth's, giving the human soldiers an advantage. They could jump farther, move faster, and carry heavier equipment than they could at home. The air has high sulfur content, Rivera noted as her team advanced. Masks on. The Vorn ground forces were caught by surprise. They wore heavy environmental suits that slowed them down. The atmosphere that humans could tolerate with simple masks was toxic to their systems. Another Deathworlder advantage, Rivera told her team as they easily outmaneuvered the enemy. We adapt to hostile environments. They have to shield themselves from them. In the main settlement, Rivera's forces linked up with local resistance fighters led by an Araxian named Keelan. His eyes widened when he saw the humans move. You move like nothing I've ever seen, he said. The Vorn told us all other species were as fragile as we are. They lied, Rivera replied simply. Now show us their command center. Keelan led them through hidden tunnels beneath the city. Most of our people are being held in labor camps. The Vorn are forcing them to harvest our world's resources. Rivera's expression darkened, not for much longer. In orbit, the battle raged. The Vorn ships fought desperately, but the human vessels were more nimble and their crews more innovative in their tactics. Reed coordinated the attack from the Resilience, constantly adjusting to Vorn countermeasures. Captain, Torres called out. The Vorn flagship is attempting to escape. Reed frowned. We can't let them warn their high command about our capabilities. All power to engines. Intercept course. The Resilience surged forward, cutting off the Vorn flagship's escape route. The 2 vessels exchanged fire, shields flaring with each hit. On the planet's surface, Rivera's team reached the Vorn command center. The humans moved with speed and precision that the Vorn couldn't match. Within minutes, they had secured the facility. Command center captured, Rivera reported. We've accessed their systems, transmitting control codes for the labor camp force fields now. Across the planet, containment fields flickered and died. Thousands of Araxians found themselves suddenly free. Resistance fighters, who had been waiting for this moment, quickly moved to guide their people to safety. Keelan watched in amazement as humans lifted equipment that would take 4 Araxians to move. You really are from a death world, he said with newfound respect. In space, the battle was ending. Most Vorn ships had been disabled or destroyed, but the flagship managed to make a desperate jump to faster-than-light travel, escaping with damage to its systems. They got away, Torres reported grimly. Reed nodded. They'll warn the Vorn High Command about us. But now they know the cost of attacking peaceful worlds. As the human forces secured the planet, Araxians emerged from hiding to greet their liberators. For the first time in months, hope returned to Nexus 7. But Reed knew this was just the beginning. The Vorn would return, and next time, they would be prepared for the Deathworlders. 1 week after the liberation of Nexus 7, Captain Reed stood in the war room of the Resilience, surrounded by both human officers and Araxian leaders. The mood was tense as they studied the latest intelligence reports. The Vorn are mobilizing their main battle fleet, Reed said, pointing to the holographic display. 47 warships, headed straight for us. High Counselor Vex's forehands trembled slightly. This is unprecedented. They've never committed so many ships to a single operation. Because they've never been challenged before, Lieutenant Walker pointed out. We've changed the game. Dr. Frost looked up from her datapad. I've been analyzing the Vorn communications we intercepted. They're referring to humans as the gravity-borne threat. They seem genuinely afraid of us. Reed nodded grimly. Good. Fear might make them hesitate. We'll need every advantage. Their combined fleet had grown to 23 ships, 4 human vessels, and 19 Araxian ships upgraded with human modifications. They were still outnumbered 2-1. We can't win in a direct confrontation, Torres said, voicing what everyone was thinking. Reed's eyes narrowed. Then we don't fight directly. We fight like humans always have, adapting to overcome stronger enemies. He outlined his plan. Instead of meeting the Vorn fleet in open space, they would use Nexus 7's complex ring system as cover. The debris would disrupt Vorn sensors and provide hiding places for ambushes. It's risky, Rivera warned. If they break through our lines, the planet is defenseless. All battles are risky, Reed replied. But the Vorn expect us to retreat. They don't understand that humans fight hardest when protecting others. The plan was set in motion. As the Vorn fleet approached, the human Araxian forces took positions within the planet's rings. Blackwell had developed special shields that hid their energy signatures among the natural radiation of the space debris. Vorn fleet entering the system. Torres announced on the day of battle. They're proceeding cautiously, scanning for traps. Reed watched the enemy ships advance in a tight formation. They've learned from our last encounter. Let them come a little closer. When the Vorn entered the outer edge of the ring system, Reed gave the order. First wave, attack. 5 Araxian ships, piloted by crews that included human tactical officers, burst from their hiding places and struck the Vorn formation before vanishing back into the debris field. The Vorn responded with massive energy barrages that mostly hid empty space. Second wave, go, Reed commanded. This time, the Resilience itself led the attack, targeting the Vorn flagship's propulsion systems. The human vessel moved with a speed and agility that shocked the Vorn, who were used to more predictable enemies. The battle turned into a chaotic melee as the Vorn formation broke apart, individual ships chasing after the faster human Araxian vessels into the debris field, exactly as Reed had planned. They're separating, he said with satisfaction. Now we can pick them off one by one. Throughout the battle, Araxian crews watched in amazement as their human counterparts made split-second decisions and took calculated risks that would never have occurred to them. Slowly, they began to adopt similar tactics. On the Vorn flagship, Admiral Court realized too late what was happening. They're using the environment against us. Reform the fleet. But his orders came too late. Already a third of his ships were disabled or destroyed, and the rest were scattered throughout the ring system. Lieutenant Walker led a daring boarding party onto one of the damaged Vorn cruisers. The human soldiers moved through the ship with shocking speed. Their bodies adapted to higher gravity, giving them strength and endurance the Vorn couldn't match. Engine room secured, Walker reported. We've captured their navigation computer intact. Dr. Frost needs to see this. The battle raged for hours, far longer than any previous engagement. Both sides took heavy losses, but the Vorn suffered most. By the time Admiral Court ordered a retreat, only 17 of his original 47 ships could still fight. As the Vorn fled the system, cheers erupted across the human Araxian fleet, but Reed didn't join in the celebration. The victory had cost them 7 ships and hundreds of lives. Captain, Torres said quietly beside him, Walker's team found something on that Vorn cruiser. Dr. Frost says it's the location of the Vorn Central Command. Reed's expression hardened. Then we know where to strike next. He turned to the communications officer. Send a message to Earth. Tell them we've won a major victory, but the war has only just begun, and we need everything they can send us. The Vorn homeworld, Dominar, hung like a pale yellow orb against the black of space. Unlike Earth with its blue oceans and white clouds, this world was mostly desert and thin atmosphere, perfectly suited for the Vorn, but hostile to most other species. Captain Reeves stood on the bridge of the Resilience, now the flagship of the largest human fleet ever assembled. Behind his ship floated 32 Earth vessels and over 50 Araxian ships, along with smaller craft from other worlds recently liberated from Vorn control. "Never thought I'd see this day," Reed said quietly to Torres. "Humanity united with alien species, preparing for the biggest battle in our history." Torres nodded. "The Earth Council is calling it the Freedom Fleet." The intelligence from Walker's captured Vorn ship had revealed not just the location of the Vorn homeworld, but also their entire command structure. The Vorn Collective was controlled from a massive space station orbiting Dominar, the nerve center of their empire. Dr. Frost approached Reed, her face serious. "Captain, I've finished analyzing the Vorn communications. They're in complete disarray. Some of their conquered worlds are already rebelling." "Good," Reed replied. "That means our plan is working." The plan was bold, even by human standards. While the main fleet engaged the Vorn defenses around Dominar, a smaller force led by Commander Rivera would slip through to the command station. Their mission: capture the Vorn leadership and force their surrender. "All ships report ready, Captain," Torres announced. "The Araxians are in position." Reed took a deep breath. "Begin the attack." The human ships moved forward first, their weapons blazing against the Vorn orbital defense platforms. The Vorn were prepared this time, their shields stronger than ever, but they weren't prepared for what came next. From the shadow of a small moon emerged the Araxian fleet, now piloted by crews who had learned human tactics. They struck the Vorn defenses from behind, creating a gap in their line. "There's our opening," Reed said. "Rivera, you're clear to proceed." Commander Rivera's strike team, aboard the fast attack ship Thunder, shot through the gap in the Vorn defenses. Walker and a team of human special forces were with her, along with Keelan and several Araxian volunteers. "We're through their line," Rivera reported, proceeding to the command station. On the Vorn command station, Supreme Leader Draz watched the battle with growing alarm. "How are they breaching our defenses so easily?" he demanded. His advisors had no answers. None of them had ever encountered a species like humans before. A species evolved on a world that should have been too harsh for intelligent life. "The Deathworlders fight like nothing we've seen," one officer admitted. "They take risks no sane species would consider." Outside, the battle reached its peak. The human Araxian fleet pushed steadily toward Dominar, despite heavy resistance. Earth ships took damage that would have destroyed Araxian vessels, yet continued fighting. Engineer Blackwell coordinated damage control teams across the fleet, implementing repairs that the Vorn thought impossible in the middle of battle. Another Earth trick, she told her Araxian assistants: "When you live on a world that's trying to kill you, you learn to fix things under pressure." Rivera's team reached the command station undetected using stealth technology developed by Blackwell. The human soldiers moved through the station with deadly efficiency, their bodies adapted to higher gravity, giving them superior strength and speed in the station's light artificial gravity. Walker led the final assault on the command center itself. Breach in 3, 2, 1. The doors blew open, and the human Araxian strike team stormed in. The Vorn guards fired desperately, but they were no match for the humans. Within minutes, Supreme Leader Draz and his high command were captured. "This is Commander Rivera to Captain Reed," came the transmission. "Command center secured. We have their leadership." Reed immediately opened a channel to the Vorn fleet. "Attention all Vorn vessels. Your leaders have been captured. Stand down or be destroyed." One by one, the Vorn ships powered down their weapons. The battle was over. 2 days later, Reed stood with Vex Thal and other alien leaders as the Vorn formally surrendered. The terms were fair but firm. All conquered worlds would be freed, and the Vorn Collective would be dismantled. What happens now? Fel asked Reed afterward. Reed looked out at the stars. We build something better. The galaxy needs protectors, species who will stand against tyrants. On Earth, we have a saying, with great power comes great responsibility. Word spread quickly through the galaxy about the Deathworlders who had defeated the Vorn. Some species looked to Earth with hope for a new, more just galactic order. Others heard the stories with fear, wondering if humans might become the next conquerors. But Captain Marcus Reed and the crews of the Freedom Fleet had no interest in conquest. They had seen enough of war. They wanted to explore, to learn, to build bridges between worlds. And if threats arose, the Deathworlders would be ready. The age of humanity in the stars had begun.